How's Jeremy McGovern being up, by the way? Oh, Cat.
Yep.
What's Cat's name?
Good timing. Sophie.
Oh, that's nice. And a human
Yes.
name for a cat,
Yes.
as opposed to my dog being called Coco.
My cousin's cat's name is called Coco, so.
Oh, there you go. What's weird having a human name, like a human name for an animal, like Jeff?
Yeah.
Imagine calling your dog Jeff, or like fucking Rob or something. Oh, that's funny. That's great way to start the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Rest. I'm your host, Ari and Nathan. Or Chaos, I should say, and I'm joined as always by Nathan. And we start this show as always by just briefly speaking about They Who Shall Not Be Named. And something's happening here, isn't it? Something's happening here. I'm just gonna not say anymore. Just not gonna say anymore. But yeah, we're back.
We're back, huh? Oh, all right. Back. Well, my prediction pre-show was I was like, we're probably gonna beat one of Melbourne and Collingwood, but we'll lose to Saint Kilda. Don't really know what's gonna happen after that, but that's just my prediction. Something's gonna go wrong at some point, like just realistically. But we are going to enjoy it whilst it lasts, and I'm loving it. Especially Port Adelaide. Oh, that was just Port Adelaide and Geelong wins. Wow, just top the rest. So, hey, look, we are very happy. We're cruising. We'll take it week by week.
Yeah, that's it. Week by week. Full credit to the boys. Get all the cliches out. But no, apart from that, how was your exhibitions to Country v Metro? I believe it was this weekend.
Yep. Yeah, final game of the boys' national championships. Country won, which was a bit of a surprise for a lot of people. You always sort of expect Metro to be a bit better, but Country got up. They were down 22-40 in the second quarter, and they kicked 9 goals in a row and were up 81-40. So big third quarter. Zane Dersma, wow, he was pretty outstanding. And his brother was actually there. Brother of Xavier Dersma, yeah. So he was actually there, and I was surprised that he wasn't as tall as what I thought. He was my height, and I'm 186. I thought he was a bit taller.
Who's Xavier?
I was a little surprised. The Port Adelaide player.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I thought I was getting confused there. And then they've got Willem Dersma, who's a 16-year-old who just won MVP for Vic Country at the under-16 champs. So good bloodline there. But yeah, weekend pretty good.
There you go. Lovely stuff. We actually will be speaking, finally, much to Nathan's delight, we will be speaking about Harley Reid. Finally, we're going to be speaking about Harley Reid. Amongst a copious amount of topics. It's not really a phrase, but we got a lot to speak about. So I know there's a preview going out, or that's premiering at 8:15. We got an hour and 12 minutes. So hopefully we should be okay. But no, we're going to be touching on the finals wildcard because that's been for some reason blown up all of a sudden. Grundy, Merritt, and Bailey Smith, 3 players under the spotlight, kind of. And then obviously Harley Reid. But Nathan would like to speak about something else a little bit later on. So if you're a regular watcher, who knows what that might be. But let's kick things off with a topic that's kind of filled the AFL. The AFL kind of media right now, and there's the finals wild card kind of introduction or concept, I should say. Essentially, for those who haven't seen, it's basically the idea behind it is having a top 6, and then having 7th versus 10th and 8th versus 9th. The winner of those 2 games basically just makes up the next 2 spots, and then it's the regular final series from there. Very similar to how the NBA do it, similar to how the VFL do it. I think a lot of other leagues kind of do this kind of structure. I know football does it, as in the round ball do it with playoffs in second divisions and stuff like this. Like the A-League do it kind of a similar structure in their final series. What are your thoughts on this one? For me, like I'm very meh towards it. I don't think I have an opinion yet. I don't think I have an opinion yet.
Yeah, I'd be pretty similar. I was mainly against it. I would still say I'm a bit more to the no than the yes side. I've been swayed by both pro and con arguments because the con argument is really, why change something that's working completely fine? And one of the arguments I saw was, like if you take that away, it's like you'll never get those Carlton Collingwood moments of last year. Like as much as it hurt, but like those
Yeah.
are moments you'll never forget. Like that, you sort of lose them. And I guess you can say, well, you might just get it for the 10th and the 11th and 10th spot, but like that
Would
just doesn't have the same feel.
would that count as making finals? Like if it was say it
No,
was implemented last year, would you say Carlton made finals? Or would it have to
no.
be?
What? And you know what? Well, actually,
you have to make the final 8.
no. I think you still have to make the final 8, but it's sort of in my area, I guess, with the under 18s comp. It's a lot different, actually. There's 13 teams in a comp. The top 3 make finals, and the rest play wildcard. So there's 5 wildcard rounds. It's not really considered finals unless you win the wildcard round.
Right. Okay.
So finals doesn't start until you win the wildcard. If you lose, so there's obviously a lot more teams that play wildcard in that comp. But going back to what I saw with the pros, I guess it does allow for a bit more competitiveness, especially come the end of the year, right? Because in a situation where you've got, I don't know, 9th playing 13th, but there's 2 games separating, there's not really much for this. It's sort of like if Carlton played Fremantle tomorrow, right? Like Freo, we know there's not really much for them to play for, right? In a situation where you've got 10 teams that at least make 1 extra week, Freo have a bit more to play for. So I can understand in that sense. And when you expand with a couple more teams, I guess 8 out of 20, which is what it will be, I'd assume eventually, that's under 50%. So I can see the pros and cons. But at the same time, do you need to expand with more teams? Like if you're not good enough, you're not good enough. I'd rather a really high quality finals competition than just more teams. I guess it's not real because you do have to win the wild card to make finals, but I'm really undecided.
I'm share the same opinion. I don't have an opinion yet. Like I genuinely don't. Like half of me is thinking, it's gonna. The one thing it's gonna do is that it's gonna increase jeopardy, right? It's gonna increase jeopardy because I know last year we had a couple of games decide finals because of how tight the season was, and I think this year we're going to come to round 24, and a lot of games are going to decide finals. But these 2 seasons I think are anomalies. Normally, it is very much 2 games max in the final round that have a bearing on finals, and most likely it's a formality and less a drastic event, right? Unlike last year where it was very competitive for the most part. So it will add jeopardy 100%. And also it goes back to that thing of, in a singular game, form, like I think form will be a part of it. I think form, because obviously this will play during the finals weekend, the bye, sorry. So it gives the team to finish in the top 6 a bye, and those 4 teams that finish 7th to 10th. 7th to 10th. Obviously an extra game. So it gives that top 6 a bigger advantage. What I think it gives the top 6 a bigger advantage, obviously making finals, you want that, right? I also think if you're getting into a situation where Adelaide finish, like you get into a situation where a team is really good at home, for example, but really bad away, and they fall into a position where they are the best team overall, but they have to play away for whatever reason, or if they have to, like the schedule changes because of this wild card, that wouldn't occur if it was an actual game. Like things like that occur, like things like that happen, which is like, who knows? You go back to the thing. I mean, if we look at last year, it would have been Carlton. It would have been what? It would have been Fremantle. It would have been Fremantle versus who finished 11th last year or 10th. It would have been. It would have been the
didn't Freo finish 5th?
Yeah, they did. It would have been the Bulldogs. Yeah. It would have been Bulldogs versus Carlton at the G. So, I wish we had it last year. And whoever finished 10th has absolutely skipped my mind, but it's a good thing we have St Kilda. So it would have been Richmond versus St Kilda, and the Bulldogs versus Carlton. So immediately right there, that's 2 extra games you play at the G that probably get 90,000 people. So tick from
which
that
is great for
from
the AFL.
unreal for the AFL, like major tick
Yeah.
for the AFL. But then again, Richmond's were a game and a half clear inside the 8.
Yeah.
And if they rock up and St Kilda play the game of their lives and beat them, and then go into the next week where they would have as Brisbane at the Gabba and got rolled. I mean, we saw what the Brisbane versus Richmond game at the Gabba British last year was a thriller that Richmond probably should have won. If St Kilda play the game of their life against Richmond and they get rolled at the Gabba, it goes back to the thing of, well, was it really the best 8 teams? Because for me, I know I'm rambling a video, I apologise. The meritocracy of the top 8 works because it's across 23 games. Yeah. Whereas having a meritocracy of a top 6 plus 4 other teams that are decided on 1 game or 2 games between the 4, to me, that damages the integrity of the competition, in my opinion.
Yes. Yeah, well, I agree. Well, I'm assuming it'll be different to how the NBA do it, right? The NBA is 7, 8, 9, 10. Winner is 7, 8 straight through, and then the loser gets a double chance. Winner of 9, 10 gets through, 10's out.
Which is far more.
So you've got a double chance. Yes, and especially another thing I was thinking about with this whole 7, 10, 8, 9 fixture, right? If 7 and 8 win, it's a pointless exercise.
Very much so. Yeah, very much so.
You've just pretty much verified that, yes, okay, cool, we would. Like it could be very stupid. The only reason it would really be great is if 7th and 10th are on 40 points and 100% all, and it's literally as even as it can possibly be.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just pointless and for money. But that's not new. It's that's you come to expect it now that these things aren't really for the fans. So,
yeah. Well, let's go back 1 year to 2021. In this case, it would have been the Giants versus St Kilda at Giants Stadium, you'd assume, and Essendon versus West Coast. Essendon, that Essendon West Coast game, I like right now, it probably actually would finish up quite similar to how we would finish up right now. West Coast were awful in the back end of 2021, and the Bombers stormed home, right? So that would have been a pointless exercise. And the Giants versus St Kilda, I mean, St Kilda, we all know how drastically or like how incredibly average they were in 2021. Like the most St Kilda season you could ever possibly get. So once again, that's probably a pointless exercise. Last year is probably the only season I can remember where it's been, you know what, fair enough. It could have worked because I think Carlton versus the Bulldogs at the G would have been a great game considering how both sides kind of ended. And then the other game I completely forgot, Richmond versus St Kilda. St Kilda fell off the back end of the year, but Richmond weren't exactly overly convincing, right? Let's we have to have a level of integrity within the competition that is based on a true meritocracy, based on true merit. It's why I think the minor premiers should be rewarded far more and should be glorified far more because they're the best team over. They're the best team over a year, like over a. I know the AFL fixture is quite arbitrary because it is made up. It's not like the Premier League where you play every team twice home and away, and that is the purest form of meritocracy in sport. Playing every single team in your competition at your home and at their home, and that's it. Ideally, it's you play every team once and then you play them all again. That's not how it normally works, but yeah, that kind of thing, right? Yeah. If it was implemented this year as it stands, it would actually be the Bulldogs versus Carlton again at the G, which is quite ironic. And it would be Essendon versus the Giants at the MCG. So once again, 2 games at the MCG. Tick for the AFL. Well, let's live in a fantasy world. What happens then? In your eyes?
Well, that's actually tough. It's because when do Carlton Bulldogs play at the G? It feels like a completely different game. And you feel pretty hard done by if you're a Dogs fan having a home game at the G.
Well, they played the
Uh,
home final in
against Adelaide,
2015.
and they lost.
Oh no, they did lose. Sorry,
They lost that one. But Essendon Giants, I'm sure Giants would roll them. It would be the most like Giants thing to do.
It's at the G. So it's at the G. But
I'd probably look. In all honesty, you'd say Essendon should win that with a 90,000 Essendon crowd. And look, because I'm pessimistic, I'd say Dogs win, which just leads me to the whole. It's like okay, 7th and 8th get in. So
yeah, there's no point.
Yeah, so
I think
that's
I think at the crux of it, it needs to improve the competition, and it needs to improve the competition of the competition, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Fine, one argument I see for it is that there's no tradition within the final series because it's been chopped and changed throughout the competition's history forever, right? This final series that we see now has only been a thing since I think in the 90s it was something different, like that recent, like 20 years ago, 24 years ago. Will we see, because of this extra game, will we see teams tire? Will we see teams have like the difference between a team that has one game in 3 weeks being a team if you win the prelim, or one game in 2 weeks? Actually, it could be one game in 21 days, depending on where your fixtures fall, if you win the qualifying, versus a team that has 3, the wild card, prelim, and or elimination and semi. What does that do? Does that compromise it? Whereas if every team gets a break, then you at least get the double chance factor being far more prominent because every team has already gotten a break.
Yeah, that's interesting. Interesting question. I'd lean towards. I don't think the extra game would do any favors, to be quite honest. Last year it was both home teams won the prelim, right? Geelong won with a week off, Sydney won with a week off. It's very rare where the team with a week off loses. Like I feel like if you've got that break, you've got that energy. It should benefit you rather than, I guess, on the odd occasion where a team is coming in with that much momentum, aka Bulldogs.
Exact example I was going to say. Yeah.
But how often does it really happen though? It doesn't really. But even we saw there is always one team actually, because we saw Brisbane did it last year, but then they absolutely just conked out at the prelim. So it does happen.
21 was the Port got rolled.
Yeah, but that felt like it was Port did it 2 years in a row where they choked. So
yeah, Port, yeah. The extra, I mean, there you
go. I feel like it's more towards you probably better off with the break, and you're not really at as much as at a disadvantage. You're losing the prelim because you're not the better team, rather than because the other teams just come in better momentum. So yeah, it's just an interesting concept that I don't know. They've really. It has to be so justifiable. Like,
because I think think about. I know. Obviously, recency in a kind of, I don't know, in a pool, or in a number of things that happen quite often. Because I can't find the right word for it. In the number of things that happen quite often, recency bias is obviously far more prevalent because there's a lot of things happening, so you remember probably the most recent ones. But how many elites finals have there been in the last 10 years? Like top-notch games, right? Why change it when it's not broke? Like immediately off the top of my head, you've got the Brisbane Bulldogs one at the Gabba. Yeah. You've got like even games that were smashing still had storylines, like the Melbourne Geelong prelim, like the Port Adelaide Richmond prelim, like all of these finals, both Collingwood finals last year, all these storylines, all these narratives that came and like that, and the games that were allowed to happen because of the current final system. I think to finish things up, because we have a lot to get through, gun to your head right now, do you do a yes or no?
No.
I'd agree. I wouldn't do it. I know this is off topic, but no, I don't think Carlton will be appealing Jordan Boyd's suspension. I would be shocked. I think we already would have announced it if we have. But regardless, not the point of the show. Let's move on. We've got a lot to get through. I'll throw it to you. What would you like to speak about now? Because we have a lot.
Well, I like to speak about. Oh yeah, I still think we keep in order. To be honest.
Okay, let's keep it on. Let's move on to Brody Grundy, and I'm just going to change that now for style guide reasons. But Brody Grundy got dropped. VFL, like not rested, not managed, not suspended, not injured, dropped, flat out omitted from the team. And then his ruck counterpart Max Gawn goes and has his career goes to have his season best game, dragging Melbourne over the line after being 4 goals down after the fourth quarter. A lot of narrative surrounding this. Obviously, probably the marquee trade from last year, unless I'm completely missing one. Probably if it's not the marquee, it's definitely top 3. Probably one of the most talked about kind of trades. One of the most talked about trades in a long time, considering the narrative around Grundy being, like, obviously the narrative around Grundy being so good at Collingwood, being such an integral piece of their team, falling out of favour, falling out of form, a couple of injuries, the amount of money he was having, and then moving to Melbourne to partner up with his rival throughout that 4 or 5 year period. Such an interesting topic, such an interesting talking point, and such an interesting narrative that has come about because of this. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this whole thing? Do you think it's blown out of proportion? Do you think Grundy is better off elsewhere? Is this was it doomed to fail from the start? Are people expecting too much of Brodie Grundy? Because I think people are expecting Brodie Grundy to be putting up number 1 ruckman stats whilst playing 50% in the ruck rather than 97% of the ruck in what he was doing at Collingwood. I think it's a little bit unfair on my end. But yeah, there's a lot to kind of get through for this one. I think a lot of ways you can speak about it.
Yeah, it was a very odd call, and it probably looked like the wrong call if you stopped the game at the with 7 minutes left in the last quarter.
Yeah,
and you would still probably argue it was the wrong call because, let's be honest, how often does that happen where a team's just going to switch off and do what Brisbane did, right? Didn't seem like the right call. I always think there's more. I always think there's more going on with these type of things. I don't just believe they dropped it.
It's purely football,
and that's it.
Yeah.
Clearly Melbourne haven't disclosed everything that's been going on behind closed doors, which we've seen with Clayton Oliver. So makes me a little bit skeptical. It's not that I think anything's severely wrong with Grundy, but it's also is it really him being dropped? Just an ASICS, It is odd. And I agree with what you sort of said in terms of the expectation on him. I'm not really sure how you can expect to be a number 1 ruckman when you are also with a number 1 ruckman in your team, 2 of them. So
yeah,
it doesn't seem too reasonable.
You need to play 2 number 2 ruckman, essentially.
Yeah. I was never a big fan of the move when it happened. I just found it extremely weird. It seems weird to have 2 really top ruckmen, but it's you can have 2 really top forwards or 2 defenders and no one says anything about it. So I guess ruckman's just an unusual thing to have. Yeah, it just feels odd.
Yeah, when was the last time a team won a premiership with 2 all Australian caliber ruckmen? 2 of them. Teams win flags with no all Australian caliber ruckman.
Yeah. Oh, mate, Sean Grigg did it with Richmond in
exactly
2017.
Sean Grigg and Toby Nankervis, who was the 4th choice ruckman for Sydney the year before. It's really interesting how having Gawn is so dominant. When he's on, he's so dominant. This comment here, they want him long term just to improve his resting forward. I get that. Grundy's not a forward though.
Yeah,
never has been, and he's 29. He never will become. He's not going to become a forward overnight. He does not have that instinctive craft. If Brodie Grundy was 23, Sure, give it a shot, but he's not. I think they should have thrown the absolute kitchen sink at Luke Jackson because I think he is that perfect, like utterly perfect second ruckman who can be that resting forward. What Carl want Tom DeConning to be, as Nathan drops out, he's back. Maybe that's what Carl wants Tom DeConning to be in also that kind of same way where you want your ruckman, you want your number one ruckman to be the ruckman, and you want your second ruckman to also to be a ruckman, but also to be versatile. Did Luke Jackson want to do that? Probably not. Does Brodie Grundy want to do that? If Brodie Grundy walked into Melbourne and expected to be the number one ruck, I'd be shocked. I'd be surprised. I think he's smarter than that.
Yeah.
I think he knows footy more than that.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. It is. Look, he must be enjoying his football if he wanted. I mean, I actually don't know where this point is going. In all honesty, I agree with what you said.
Yeah,
I'll leave it at that.
What's the future for Grundy?
Well,
are we going to get? Are we going to get to the point where an all Australian caliber ruckman is traded twice in 2 years and 3 clubs are going to be paying his salary? Surely not, right?
that'd be funny. It'd be quite funny.
Would.
I'd be surprised if he left. I was just going to say how old's gone. I'm pretty. He was he 2011?
Yeah, early 30s.
So, I guess they're sort of similar age. So,
yeah, the age is not a big enough factor to try and pass the torch, if you will.
Yes, yeah. Look, I don't know why you'd risk, losing a shot at a premiership. To be quite honest, I think your best chance is at Melbourne. Obviously, if this omission is not just a one-off, then you probably do start, questioning where you are and where you want to be. But I do think it'd be surprising if you said, name me Melbourne's best 22. I'd be pretty shocked if you wouldn't have his name there as someone who's going to win you a flag in the end.
Where would you put him, though? Full forward?
Oh, mate, you put him on the interchange and they just rotate back and forth. You could put him at full forward, though. There's nothing wrong with chucking him at full forward. He's just not, in terms of forward craft, he doesn't have it right. But there's never anything wrong with putting him just at full forward.
And just as a target. I was going to say, or do you put Gawn full forward?
Well, Gawn, he's so hit and miss. He'll hit like a 65-metre torpedo from like the pocket.
Boundary.
Or he'll like kick it out in the full from 10 metres out. So, yeah, I mean, you'd much prefer Gawn up forward.
I think you'd rather Gawn in the ruck as well.
Yeah, well, that's what I guess around the contest in the stoppages, he's there at the very least. So it is interesting.
It's a weird position because Gawn's. I'm trying to. I know exactly what I want to say. I don't know if it's going to come out right. So bear with me. Gawn's ability as a ruckman is like the difference between Gawn. How do I say this? Gawn is more better as a ruckman. No. Yes, okay. Okay, no, I got it.
Yeah.
Gawn is more better as a forward than Grundy than Gawn is better than Grundy as a ruck, if that makes sense. So the gap between Gawn's forward craft and Grundy's is bigger than their ruck craft. But Gawn is still better. He's still better at both.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, okay. That does make sense. Took a while, but I did get it. Okay.
Got there.
Yes. Yes, I know. I'd agree. I think we'll find out very quickly if he's going to stay or not. I feel like this is it's just going to happen. If interest will spark just like that, especially if he's not playing this week. Who have they got this week? Adelaide. Look, if you're not, yeah.
Should win that. Maybe we'll tip later on, but should win that.
Should, yes. But it's not a great situation. not the best thing to move to a team and a team you probably should be playing in, given how good he is, and then just get dropped. But
Yeah.
I'll still stick with my original point that I just don't think that was it. I'm not really convinced it was just being dropped. I just think there was something else. Whether it was injury or not, I just don't think that it was just being dropped. Because realistically, why would he be dropped? Because his form hasn't suggested he's been playing poorly. So, yeah, not a very odd situation. Probably not in terms of one of those like headlines of the year you don't predict when we did it at the start. That probably would have been one.
Yeah, I know.
That is one.
As we always, I feel like it's now becoming a theme that we wrap up on a gun to your head question. Bit morbid, but we move. You're playing in a grand final right now as Simon Goodwin. Do you play both or do you play one?
Both.
Right. And what's the mix? Give me a percentage of forward and ruck time between the both of them.
And both. Well.
Oh, he's gone. He's back.
Well, I'm back.
Internet issues today. Yeah, okay.
Mate, it's every week. It feels like it's every week. Who would give me an opponent quickly? Because I feel like
we'll go Collingwood.
Collingwood. Okay, well, yeah, I'm certainly playing Gorn about 65-35 forward ruck. I feel like
you're going more forward.
Yes, I think Gorn more forward.
So Grundy 35 forward, 65 in the ruck.
Because I think you're gonna, because I think you're probably gonna win that ruck contest either way, no matter who's in it.
Yeah,
I'd rather just another reliable tall forward with Gorn. So, yeah, it's probably one mix.
Fair enough. I would. It depends if their forwards are fit. Assuming their list is fit otherwise, I would not play Brodie Grundy. I would just go with Max Gawn.
Fair enough.
Bold. Let's move on. And let's go in order as we normally do. Zach Merritt. Embarrassing or justified? Obviously, not referring to him himself. I'm sure he's a lovely man, good footballer. The situation around him being carried off for his 200th game, after being smacked by however much they lost by. Kane Cord's very vocal about it, which is quite funny considering that he got chaired off in his 300th when they had lost against Richmond. So, okay. I think. Okay, what are your rules around chairing off? Firstly,
I don't think I've ever sat down and done my rules.
What milestones are acceptable?
I think 250 plus, and
quarter.
I don't even think 250. I'd say 250 if you know that's their last season, or they probably won't hit 300.
Right.
I'd still no, I would still say 250 to be quite honest. 200, it's like, especially considering he's going to be there for a couple more years. He'll probably hit 300. You would expect it was just awkward. I reckon if they'd won, no one would have said anything about it.
Yeah, well, I guess that's the point. After a loss in particular, yeah.
It was just.
I reckon. Sorry, yeah.
So just one more point. I think even if they had lost, but it was at the MCG, Essendon's home game, I still don't think it would have been as awkward.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
My rules around it. So obviously, everyone must follow them from here on in because that's how it works. I think 50, no acknowledgement. 50, you get maybe a sentence on the banner, and that's it, right? If you're lucky, yeah. If you're lucky,
yeah.
Nothing else, right? And you can be put in the middle of the circle if you win, but who cares about that? 100, you can have a banner. You can have a banner with 100. That's fine. 150, I reckon you get. I think 150, it's a clap off the ground, like you walk. If you win, you walk off the ground. You get the boys get around you. Yeah, boys, all that good stuff. Right?
Yeah.
200 in a win, chaired. 250 up, chaired. unless you get pelted by 60 points. Actually, no, because a lot of people reach 200 games. Actually, a lot of people reach 200 games. Jack Nunes is a 200 game player.
I've never been a fan of cheering for milestone games as it is. Like I only think I think retiring's the only reason why. It's like you're still playing. Like that's not your final game of football. Like we respect you. You know,
300 games is a lot. That is a lot of.
Yeah, but like you're that close to retiring anyway. It's like.
Yeah, no, and like I also agree. Jack Nunes has played 250 games of football. Not quite 250, but he's played over 200. I know. And we thought you respect Jack if you're watching. Come on.
Yeah. I don't know. We're sort of zoning out as we always do. This actual situation. Let's answer the question.
Answer it.
Okay, my answer. Embarrassing. I agree.
Is that because it's only a 200 games, or it's because they got pelted? So flip the script. Flip the script entirely. It's at the MCG. Essendon killed Geelong by 10 goals. Zach Merritt has 35 and kicks a goal.
I still think it, but that's a different context, though. I'm saying I'm strictly.
Yeah, no, I'm asking the reason why it's embarrassing to you. I'm not questioning what
because he's just he's not even like close to the end of his career. It's like 200.
He's 27.
Oh yeah, but he's a player you'd expect to at least.
That's agreeing with the point. He's only 27. He's got 7 more years in the game, probably.
It was, I don't know, just considering it just felt awkward. It was just like, especially in Geelong, it's like, just did not. It was just sort of embarrassing. It was embarrassing to watch. Like you weren't like, wow.
Well, I didn't watch it, so.
I mean, I didn't watch it live, but I saw it afterwards, and it was just. So it just didn't feel like the right moment. I feel like it just did disrespect to his service, if anything. It's like, oh, here we go, celebrating 200 games. Let's walk off in a soccer pitch with a couple of Essendon fans around the thing. Just, you know. It doesn't, if anything, it's just an insult to him.
Fair. Yeah, actually not that bad of a point. Mark Murphy getting cheered off after losing by 120 points or whatever it was.
That was equally as embarrassing, but that was his last game. So more, last game, you just, yeah. If it was if it was Zach Merritt's last game, then justifiable. Still would have been a little bit embarrassing, as was Murphy's. It was equally as embarrassing. But,
so, okay, where's your limit for last games? So, who might retire this year? That's
still 250 though. I'm still 250.
What if it's 200, but
200, but a premiership hero? You know, yeah.
Okay, maybe. Okay, what if Jack Nunes continued his career at St Kilda, and St Kilda won a flag in 2020? Let's just say he stayed at St Kilda that year, and Jack Nunes played every single game, but he averaged 16 disposals and 0.4 goals a game, which is just average. Like, not bad, but just there. Yeah. And they won a flag. And he played 194 games, and he retired at the end of he retired at the end of the next year.
No, because he didn't get to 200.
So what if he got
to 200? Oh, then sure, mate. Have a good share off. Oh, I think it's just very subjective based on the player. Like he merits a great player to get it, but it did really feel like an insult. It just I don't know, wasn't terrific. I think your whole accolade, getting on it is running out, leading the team out. You've got that's your moment.
Yeah.
That's it there, You've got, I guess it was an away game, but at a home game, you've got the person on the PA saying, oh, give it up for X player, 200th game. Everyone's looking at it. Yeah. So I think it's very subjective, this whole situation. The right player, the wrong time. That's probably the
fair
okay way to summarize this.
Fair. Yeah. What's the best chair off in history. What are we talking about?
Share off in history.
What the fuck are we talking about? Moving on. No, I'm not even getting you a chance to answer that question.
Oh, that's
Moving
one
on.
of your best for the
Yeah, that sucks.
Out of
That's-
context, mate. Oh, the metal chair versus the wooden chair. Which one would win? Like, what even?
That is fucking awful. That's shocking here. Where's your best chair off? Oh, that's oh god. Anyways, fuck me. All right. Should the Bulldogs trade Bailey Smith? I don't know. I don't know anymore. Take over, please. I need to compose myself after that.
My opinion. Look, I don't really know what they would get for him. In all honesty, I'm not very big on him. So,
Well, sorry to interrupt. I was listening to the Tradies podcast, and Mitch Cleary was adamant that he was 2 first rounders for Bailey Smith currently.
okay, well, I don't agree with that at all.
I don't agree. I don't agree. I think it's a first.
Yeah, I think it's a first. Not even the first is pushing. I think I'd say you're looking at 15 or 20 in terms of first round, and then a high second round. One of the two, not both. I think he's pretty replaceable. In all honesty,
Do you
I
think
don't
he's
think
having a bad year, or is he a bad player?
Combination of both. He's not a bad player. He's definitely. I mean, when you put him on a list, he's not.
Yeah, in comparison to
it's a poor year. Yes.
Yeah.
But I've never been blown away by his talent. Really, like he's had some clutch moments, but his ball use is just very questionable at times. He's not the toughest player. Really, it comes across as it, but he's under pressure. He's not very good with his ball use, and that's something that just sort of gets swept under the rug, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really see why you would want to get rid of him. I don't think you're going to get much for him. Unless you look at it and say, well, hey, maybe people are willing to give us something and we could probably benefit from this and actually come out the winners in it. So it would be interesting to see which way clubs sway and with him if he's really worth value towards another team, because I don't think he'll change. He's better than a role player, but he's not going to actually transform your team. So
yeah, okay.
I think it depends on what clubs are really needing, and I guess I would say more top teams than anything, he's probably a good asset to have, and that's why he's good at, that's why he's been good at the Bulldogs, because he's just plays his role well. He's not a top player, but he usually does the job. So
yeah.
I don't know why a bottom team would want him, to be quite honest. He would not add another dimension to your team.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't entirely disagree. I feel like I think you're underrating him a bit. I think maybe that's my personal preference. I do like him as a footballer. I think he's been a bit stiff with the fact that he's had far less midfield time than what he normally would have had. Obviously, Bevo has a fucking hard on for playing midfielders in every other position except the midfield for some reason. So, I mean, that's up to him. I think he's been stiff. I think his best position is in the midfield. I think playing that outside midfield that can run and that can really spread is where he plays his best football. We obviously, that 2021 final series, that ice in the veins goal against Brisbane was awesome. Like when you're speaking about moments, that's up there, right? And he's a very marketable player. He's the face of Cotton On, ladies and gentlemen. Let's not undersell the value of that. The face of Cotton On. So yeah, but he's like the most followed footballer on Instagram and all this good stuff, right? He's got the abs and the hair. So we all know what he brings in that aspect, and we all know the asset that he can have, that he can be. Whether or not that is translated this year, I don't think it has. I don't think he hasn't had a good year by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think they should trade him. I don't think. I think he'll overcome this rough patch, but I don't think it's going to be a. I don't think it's going to be a big kind of if he does go. I don't think he will. If he does go, I think it's not going to be a big kind of. I don't know how to describe this. Actually, I'm gonna not say what I'm gonna say because it makes no sense. But regardless, I don't think they should trade him. Full stop. Because I think he'll overcome this. I think it's just a bad year, and I think in the right system he can be very valuable. We saw in that 2021 final series just how valuable he can be when the system is suited to him, when he can run, when he can spread, and when he can be that kind of aggressive outside player that can get forward and kick goals and impact the scoreboard. I just think he's lost a little bit now playing a far forward, playing a little bit off the wing, hasn't really found his calling. And I think I don't think he should put the Q in the rack right now, especially considering there's a lot of change going on with the Bulldogs right now. They are quite a transitional team at the moment. That older guard, like Dunkley's gone. Libba's playing extremely good football, but potentially on his way out soon. And yeah, I think they are in a position of transition where Bailey Smith is the future. He could be a Bulldogs legend. Like, let's not forget, he's only a what? He was in the same draft as well. So he's a fifth year. Fifth, 19, 20, 21, 22. Yeah, it's his fifth year. He's got a long way to go. Like, he's got a long way to go. Let's not write him off just yet. We did, yeah. I was going to say what's his trade value worth, but where do you see his best position? Where do you see he plays his best?
I'd still say on the wing. I just think I just like his running carry is still something that is impressive. You can't deny that.
Yeah, good.
I mean, when he does get, I mean, he's still effective when you put him into that midfield mix in the centre stoppages. I mean, he's a threat up forward at times as well. So that's what I sort of mean. Like, he's valuable enough where you probably don't want to get rid of him.
Yeah,
it's probably the little things that you can add. It's really that only negative I've always had of him, where I just think under pressure, he's more in the contest, like around a contest, not just sort of moving down and the players come towards him. More around a contest, he's a bit poorer. But otherwise, you can definitely say the positives outweigh the negatives with him. So, I do still like his football on the wing. I just think that's where he thrives most of the time. But yeah, you can really move him, and it's not like he'll have any less impact than he usually does.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's players go through form slumps all the time. People were saying at the end of 2021, let's trade Patrick Cripps, and then 12 months later, he had Charlie around his neck. So I'm not going to say Bailey Smith's going to be the Brownlow, but you cut the kid some slack. I also think what Matthew Lloyd said about him, that it was Matthew Lloyd or Kane Collins about that he needs to protect people, need to save him from himself. It's quite interesting because we all know how he was like that. It was well publicized how regimented and how disciplined and stringent he was on his lifestyle whilst during his draft year and even in the years before through his developmental stage. I'm assuming that's been carried over to his AFL career. I'd be shocked if it hadn't. Is it? I mean, maybe not really a talking point worth saying, but do you think it's back end off field stuff that's affecting his on field form? Do you think it's not purely when he steps over the white line, he's just having a bad footballing year? Do you think there's more to it potentially, in the back end? Because it's been quite a drastic drop off.
Yeah, I just put it down to, I don't think anything externally is affecting him too much. I feel like the talk about him has been non-existent this year, which is probably a good thing for his football when you think about it.
Well, he's been poor. That's probably the point.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but in terms of off-field things compared to recent years, there hasn't actually been anything. Ginnivan is actually has just helped Bailey. So if you think back, right, as soon as Ginnivan came in, Bailey Smith, no one I don't actually remember hearing about Bailey Smith apart from the video, which won't go into, right? I don't remember hearing about him afterwards. Did we? I don't even remember speaking about it, but
We did.
I'll take your word for it. I'll take your word for it.
I
But
remember.
I don't remember.
Who writes the run sheets for this show?
Mate, it's a 50-50 effort. Don't try and tell people otherwise. Point being, look, it's down to form. I just think his steps on it's just not happening for him at the moment. So I'll turn it around. Be surprised if it just completely goes drastically worse for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. We're heading into Nathan's wheelhouse now, both in terms of draft and in terms of this is his talking point. I'm going to put the floor over to you. Giants spoil Sloan celebration.
Terrific, wasn't it? And I said, look, all year, you've been like, oh, you just can't admit the Crows are good. Just in like they're good. Nah, they're good. Trust me, they're good. They're good. And I kept telling you, they are phony. They are the Adelaide Crows, and that's it. They're the Crows. They didn't even win, exactly. And I said last week, you can go back to our tips. Oh, was it in our tips? Did I say this in our tips or did I say it off camera? I can't remember. But I'm pretty sure I did say it in the actual show. I said, if the Giants win, agree that you'll get off them. And you said yes. And the Giants, wowee, there was some performance. I mean, caught the back end of that game. They just shut Adelaide down. I mean, Adelaide did turn to jelly in that last 15 minutes. They just couldn't hit a target and just completely collapsed. They were on top for most of that game. But I just think, Adelaide, let's just calm down. Let's just realise we probably made a mistake getting a bit too carried away with them. That I'm not disagreeing that they've got a good future, right? Like they've built well, but I was never on the finals this year, Trey. I think they were overrated from the start. And look, they've got Melbourne this week at the MCG showdown. Couldn't see them win either of those games, in all honesty. I think that killed their season, this game. I think that totally killed their season. And you showed me a very funny video pre-show, which was delightful to watch. We won't be showing it.
No.
But to put it simply, Giants fans really did spoil the celebration. That's a good summary of that. It was a nice video to watch. But Adelaide, yeah, it's not happening. It was, if you can't do it anywhere else but Adelaide, and you can't even do it in Adelaide, you cannot be taken seriously. And I will hold that same, thoughts and ideas for Melbourne teams as well. If you're a Melbourne team and you cannot go interstate, you can't be taken seriously. So it was I'm just glad because you would not stop telling me they were good. And finally, it seems like it's collapsed.
You done?
Oh, mate, Melbourne win and put Adelaide in the week after. It's just going to be a reoccurring thing of me talking about them. But
look, I thought this
if they make finals, I'm assuming you're just going to clip this and then just chuck this up. So
no, if I make finals, I'm going to be hosting the show with Terry for the next foreseeable future. I thought this was going to be a how bad are Adelaide shtick, not how stupid is Ari shtick. So
it was a mix of both. I felt like because Adelaide did just prove like they're not there. So
yeah, thanks, Crows. You fucking.
It was
idiot. Oh, thank you. Lovely stuff. I was going. There's no gun to your head question that we can finish things up on.
Well, you can just say, "Will Adelaide make finals for me?" That's my gun to your question.
Let me ask you this: Will Adelaide make finals next year?
Oh, sorry, this year. Sorry, I meant this year.
Oh yeah, this year.
No, they won't.
Oh, shock! Horror. Right. Finally, we're speaking about draft. Something draft.
Yes. Yeah.
And you love this bloke. You love Harley Reid.
Yes. Yeah.
As much as
I feel like I've ever said that. I feel like I've ever publicly said I love Harley Reid. He's a great player.
You love him as much as Will Ashcroft.
No, come look, that's you're making. They're both good people. I only criticize Will for his way he plays. He's a great bloke. Got nothing wrong with him. It's just I criticize the way he's played his football. Anyways, yes, the talking point on Harley Reid. Actually, I'll let you start because you listened to the podcast where this did get announced. So
Scoops McClure, the senior journo, the man himself is, friend of the channel as well. He obviously was speaking on Australia's podcast with Mitchell Cleary, and he said something about Harley Reid, saying that basically X person from inside Harley Reid's camp has told this person who's told me that Harley doesn't want to go to West Coast. That obviously clip, cut, quote, mayhem, naturally, right?
Yeah.
In reality, McClure also went on to say, this doesn't mean that Harley Reid won't go to West Coast. It doesn't mean that West Coast won't pick him, and it doesn't mean anything. It literally means nothing other than it's an observation that has been made. Blowing horrendously out of proportion, in my opinion. Someone who probably knows a little bit more about the context itself and the whole situation around draft, just obviously because of how deeply you cover it. What are your thoughts on this whole potential situation? Because what are your thoughts on it?
I personally think it's a load of BS. I was never really sold on it. I could not see. I just don't understand how they've come to this conclusion, to be quite honest, because I do not see Harley ever publicly saying this to people. He's a very humble kid. I don't know him personally. I've said hello to him a couple of times, but from what I've been told from people at the club, at Bendigo, the people at Bendigo Football Club, right? They personally say he's a very humble kid. So I'm going to take their word for it because he's obviously at the club a couple of times a week, right? They know him well. I could not see a world in which he's just going to say, oh, look, I'm not too keen on moving. What? And this is what we said pre-show, right? I think there's a difference between being stubborn and then just being hesitant. Because if I said to you, look, I've got a job for you in Darwin tomorrow as a journalist, and you're going. You're 90% likely to go there. You just got to get confirmation. You'd be a bit hesitant. And it's not because you don't want to go. It's like, oh, well, hold on. I've got to not restart my life, but, I've got to change a lifestyle. It's not, you're going to have some hesitancy. And then there's stubbornness, which I think is with Horn Francis. It's just like, no, I want to be at home. I don't actually want to be anywhere else. I just want to be back at home. I do not see a world in which Harley is like that. He's a country kid. I don't really see the impact moving would do for him. It's not like he's been connected to a big city for his life. So, yeah, I think it's a load of BS. I don't think he'd have any issues with moving to Perth. It's a big move, but I just would be very surprised if he was not keen about it. He's too humble and he's got his goals are terrific in terms of where he wants to get. He wants to be the best in the draft. So if you've got that goal, why would you not expect to go anywhere? It doesn't add up. I think it's just quotes put together to, imply that he doesn't want to go, but I call it complete BS. I really couldn't see that happening.
Yeah. I would agree. And I think just to add on to that point, I also think let's take away the fact that he's a footballer, take away the fact that he's doing this job. West Coast right now are not an attractive proposition, right? They know that. The whole footy world knows that. Right now, as it currently stands, they are not a place most people would want to go and work. At the end of the day, this is going to be Harley Reid's job. This is his profession. I'm assuming Harley would want to look at his future profession and his future occupation and think, how am I going to, let's be honest, how am I going to make the most money? Because it's his job. And that's what every football player wants, right? 99% of them, it's their job. They need to secure themselves and they need to secure their family. And not only that, how is he going to get the best out of himself? If he doesn't think that West Coast are going to propel his footballing career future and are going to help him improve his profession, forget about it being football, his profession. If he doesn't think a certain workplace will help progress himself both as a person and both in his profession, why would he want to go there? That's the point. And I understand the point. Yeah, it makes it faster the draft, etc., etc., etc. But like this has been happening. This has happened so many times before. I don't know. Obviously, Horn France is probably a little bit of a different example, but Archie Perkins made it publicly known that he didn't want to leave. That he didn't want to leave Victoria. Chad Wingard, I think, as well, made it publicly known that he wanted to go to Port Adelaide. I'm pretty sure when he got drafted. This has happened before. I don't know why this is such an explosive talking point right now. But yeah, I would agree. I don't know that much about Harley Reid. I don't know much about his character. I know him as a very good footballer, and that's about it. You obviously know a little bit more about it in that space. But yeah, no, I would agree with you. I don't think. I think the way you put it is difference between hesitancy and stubbornness. I 100% agree. I think that's bang on. Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty.
I think,
that sums it up. I think. Well, we've actually done pretty well there.
Yeah, we've not rambled, or we have, but it's been good. At least I think anyway. I was going to ask a question. And I got fucking sidetracked. Do you think? I think this kind of moves on a little before we move on to the preview and the tips. Do you think, regardless of what's happened, not really highly related, but would this report, in your opinion, maybe influence West Coast to trade the number one pick? Because I'm assuming the team who has number one pick are gonna take Harley. They're not going to go and take someone else. It's just about whether or not you want Harley Reid for X, Y, Z reasons.
Oh, no, it won't impact him at all. The club will talk to him privately anyway. If they were influenced by the media, mate, they would choose Cal Toomey's draft rankings to actually pick their players. And Cal's rankings are always good, but it's like, what they do it themselves. That's their job to figure out who they want. So shouldn't impact at all. And even the number 2 pick, Jed Walter, well, he's going to go to Gold Coast because he's linked to their academy. So still Colin McKercher would probably go at number 3, a great Tassie kid. But point being, yes, I mean, Harley should go number 1 anyway. So if they are seriously going to take on what the media said, I mean, it sort of sums up their football club. But come on, that's,
Yeah, no,
shouldn't happen.
I agree. Lovely way to finish up the talking point aspect of the show. As we finish things off totally or overall with the preview and the tips, let's go through what we did last round. We both got 7, so I'm catching ground. You're on 102, I'm on 85.
What do you mean you caught it? You didn't catch anything.
Yeah, I know. That was the joke. Yeah, I know. Trust me. I read the sheet of paper with our tips on, and I was like, "Ooh, I tipped the Giants," and then I realized, "Oh, I tipped North."
Did you tip North? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Let's swiftly move on to the round 18. Yep. No, it's not. No, it's round 19. I forgot to change the super. Wow, that's laziness. Okay, Essendon versus the Western Bulldogs at the Docklands.
This is really tough to pick. Actually, let's agree one thing here. The loser put a line through him.
Put a line through them doing anything serious.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Yep.
Essendon. I think home crowd plays a pretty big factor.
I'll go the Dogs. I think Dogs go. Richmond versus Hawthorn.
Richmond haven't been too convincing. Hawthorn have been. This could be upset. Has upset potential. But yeah, look, I'd say Richmond, but I think it will be within 4 goals. I don't actually think they'll.
They weren't too great last week. Against West Coast, I've got Richmond. Carlton versus West Coast.
Well, hold on. My streak is still on here, right? It wasn't the Gold Coast game I tipped up. Oh yeah, tip them. Come on, go on. And I've tipped them ever since. So
yeah, I've also changed my tips since as well. So we're both on a streak.
Yeah. But are you going? Well, the question is, are you doing it this week? I mean, yes, Carlton for me. Are you doing it?
What do I rather? Carlton win a game of football and try and
Yeah.
hopefully make finals, or my score in this tip
Get a tip back.
between us? Oh, it's a real tough one. I'll tip the West Coast Eagles for obvious reasons. And if West Coast win, I want this tip to be quadrupled.
Oh yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I'll give that to you.
Good. Brisbane versus Geelong at the Gabba.
Yeah, so odd time slot.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say it. I reckon Geelong will upset them.
I've got Geelong as well. I was hoping that was
Really? I just had a gut. No, okay, I'll go Brisbane.
yes, for the content.
But yeah, I felt
Yeah.
upset on that one.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good game. Shit time slot, but shock. Fremantle versus the Swans at Optus. I've got the Swans.
The best Saturday night game of the round.
Nothing else interesting happening on.
You've gone the Swans.
Yep.
Freo. Why not?
Interesting. Port Adelaide versus the Collingwood Magpies. Huge game.
Port Adelaide fans, my God, the arrogance going into this game. Everywhere, it's like, oh, it's all right. Like, we drop players, we'll lose, but it's all right. Like, we'll beat Collingwood. Like, they'll be back. Does it just work like that? Like, was this planned? Is this scripted, eh? That just because you drop players, right? Like, get out of here. You're going to get Collingwood. Seriously, you cannot. The arrogance is just astounding. Considering you've just, I don't want to go too Carlton based on this show, but like they weren't. How many did they genuinely drop that would have like?
They had
made
seven
a massive impact.
7 dropped, 4 of them that were omitted.
Just Horn Francis, yes. Let's say Mackenzie, yes.
Dixon, yes.
Dixon, sorry. Yeah, Dixon. Otherwise, like, no, man, too much arrogance. You lost by 50 points. Like, take it. And now you have to play Collingwood. So, Pies. And I think that crowd will, oh my God, I would not want to be in that crowd.
It's going to be spicy.
That'll just...
Spicy. Can't wait to watch that. It's going to be awesome.
Like, I'm sure you've heard the stories of, scratching Victorian number plates over there, like back in the day. If you're a Collingwood driving, wouldn't want to be there.
So you're going with the Pies, I assume.
I'm going with Collingwood. Yep.
No, I'm going. After all of that, I'm going with Port.
Yeah, fair enough.
GWS versus Gold Coast at Monica.
Again, I have like upset in my head. I don't know why. Like Giants have been so good, but like I feel like the arrogance could just get to their heads a little bit, like because it's like, oh, Gold Coast, yeah, cool. But also the Monica stat I keep bringing up, it's like 7 losses in a row. So I'll go with history and just say Gold Coast.
Fair enough. I've got the Giants. I wrote the Giants. Melbourne versus the Crows at the MCG. I wonder who you're going to pick.
Melbourne.
Yep.
Melbourne by who knows how much. I agree.
And the St Kilda versus North at Marvel. Are you going?
I'm not going. I was like, no way. I mean, I was offered the North and Hawthorn. You're going.
I'm going.
Have fun, eh? You'll realise the joy of being. I was offered the North Melbourne and the Hawthorn games
at that game.
Well, see, that's good. I just can't. If you just don't go, you don't even need to bother. I was offered the North and the Hawthorn games. Both I was like, no thanks. I'm okay. I'm all right.
Okay. Well,
thanks for the offer, but I'll just pass.
I'm gonna get so tanked.
Anyways.
Drink responsibly, kids. I've got the Saints.
If the first game was anything to go by, this will be 33 to 63. Yeah. Well, Saints could lose it, but they won't. So okay. Saints.
Good stuff. All right, quickly wrapping up.
We're split on a lot there.
Yeah, we have. Quickly wrapping up because there's a preview coming out in 5 minutes. Essendon. So you've got Essendon, Richmond, Carlton, Brisbane, Freo, Pies, Suns, Melbourne, Saints. I've got Dogs, Dogs, Richmond, West Coast, Cats, Swans, Pies, Giants, Melbourne Saints. We differ on 6. You know what? I'm using. Oh,
You're gonna do it. Oh, I know when I'm using mine. I've made my decision.
I'm using my double. I'm using my double.
Oh,
So all my
that's
tips,
massive.
all my tips will double. Just clarifying for those who haven't watched, all my tips will double, not just the differences. So if we both get 6, I get 12, he gets 6. If I get 9 and he gets 0, that can't happen. But say it did, I would have 18. He would have 0. Anyways, and I probably still wouldn't even be winning. But I digress.
You'd be up by 1.
Yeah, well, there you go. Thank you very much, Chris, for becoming a member of the channel. Is very much appreciated. But that's all. An hour or 10 minutes. We rambled on for too long, as we always do. But thank you all very much for watching once again. Nathan, thank you very much for joining me. Make sure you stick around for the preview of the Carlton West Coast game coming out in 4 minutes. So I'm sure Terry's quivering in his boots about this game. I'm sure he's really nervous. So make sure you stick around and watch that. Yeah, thank you all very much for watching. Follow both of us on Twitter at @R_Y_Stammer at Nath Seppi. And see you guys next week, same time slot as we always do.